From the air, changing a country can look deceptively simple. Find what gives a government its power, hit it hard enough, and eventually the government breaks. At least that is the theory. But history keeps creating the same problem. Armies can be destroyed in days. Governments can collapse in weeks. And then comes the part no missile can solve. Who rules the country the morning after? That question has returned with Iran. Because military power can force a government to retreat. It can even help bring one down. But removing power and replacing it are two completely different things. And the difference has shaped wars for decades. In 1999, NATO wanted Slobodan Milosevic to withdraw Serbian forces from Kosovo. So NATO went to war from the air. For 78 days, Yugoslavia was bombed. Then Milosevic gave in. Serbian forces left Kosovo. The campaign had worked, but Milosevic was still president. The bombs changed his decision. They did not change who ruled Serbia. That happened later. More than a year after the bombing ended, Milosevic tried to remain in power after a disputed election. People took to the streets. Workers went on strike. Political support around him began to collapse. And eventually, so did his government. The difference is subtle, but it matters. Military power forced Milosevic to change course. Serbian society ultimately changed its government. Two very different outcomes. A few years later, the United States went much further. In Iraq, the goal was not simply to change Saddam Hussein's behavior, it was to remove him. This time, airstrikes came together with a massive ground invasion. Baghdad fell quickly. Saddam's government disappeared. And for a moment, it looked like the hardest part was over. It wasn't. Because a government is much more than the person sitting at the top. There are institutions, officials, police, local leaders, networks of loyalty, people who know who gives the orders, and people who decide whether those orders still matter. When Saddam disappeared, that entire system was suddenly thrown into uncertainty. The old power was gone, but the new power was not yet established. And Iraq entered years of violence, insurgency, and political struggle. Removing the government had taken weeks. Building a stable political order would take far longer. That exposed a strange limitation of modern military power. The strongest armies in the world can move incredibly fast. Politics cannot. Then came Libya. In 2011, Muammar Gaddafi was fighting an uprising against his government. NATO entered the conflict from the air. But this time, there were already forces on the ground trying to overthrow him. As NATO weakened Gaddafi's military, Libyan rebels advanced. Eventually, his regime collapsed. Again, military power had helped achieve an extraordinary result. A government that had ruled Libya for more than 4 decades was gone. But the people who agreed that Gaddafi should leave did not necessarily agree on what Libya should become. The common enemy disappeared. The divisions remained. Militias competed. Political centers emerged in different parts of the country. And once again, the easier question turned out to be, how do you destroy the old power? The harder question was, what replaces it? Kosovo, Iraq, and Libya were very different wars. Different countries, different objectives, different outcomes, but they reveal the same uncomfortable pattern. Military power is much better at destroying a political system than designing the one that comes after it. And that brings us back to Iran. When people ask whether airstrikes can win against Iran, the word itself creates confusion. Win what? If the goal is to destroy military capabilities, that is one kind of war. If the goal is to force negotiations, that is another. If the goal becomes removing the government entirely, everything changes. Because Iran is not simply a collection of military targets. It is a country of more than 90 million people with institutions, political factions, security organizations, religious authority, economic interests, and a powerful national identity. If the leadership suddenly disappeared tomorrow, none of those things would disappear with it. Someone would still command military units. Someone would control government buildings. Someone would control the streets. Someone would decide whether orders from Tehran were still obeyed. And millions of ordinary Iranians would have to decide who they believed had the right to govern them. That is where military precision ends. You can calculate where a missile will land. You cannot calculate political loyalty with the same accuracy. You cannot know exactly when fear becomes anger, or when opposition to a government becomes support for that same government, because the country feels attacked from outside. And you cannot know who will inherit power once the people holding it are gone. This does not mean military power is useless. History shows exactly the opposite. It can stop armies, it can change decisions, it can protect allies, and when combined with forces on the ground, it can help bring governments down. But the moment a government falls, the problem changes. The question is no longer how many aircraft you have. It becomes much more ordinary. Who opens the schools tomorrow? Who runs the police? Who keeps the electricity on? Who pays government workers? Who gives an order? And who actually obeys? Those questions cannot be answered from 30,000 feet. A bomb can destroy a government building. It cannot decide who walks into that building the next morning. It can destroy the symbols of power. It cannot manufacture legitimacy. And that may be the paradox at the center of modern war. Destroying power is an engineering problem. Replacing power is a human one.